My now chairman, who was my MD at James Cubitt Architects, said to me, "You know what? I like the way you work. Would you like to join our team?" And I won't lie to you. First of all, I ran. If I had like my 16-year-old self sitting in a chair opposite me and asking, what do you think I should do? I'll say, just go for it. Just don't overthink it. Just give it a jab. You're trying to advance yourself. You're trying to do better. You're trying to do better. You're trying to make something better.
Yeah.
So go for it. Just try it. You know what they say about fear now. Once you never know until you've crossed over. You're like, what? Really? Mm-hmm. To just jump from a plane is really that simple?
Thank you for choosing to listen to the Moneyball show again. On the show today, we have someone really special who is featuring for the second time. So that means that she's really special, and she is the MD of Nigeria's foremost design company. That's James Cubitt, and she also featured on a documentary on Netflix called Made by Design, which gives you some idea of the credibility of the person that I'm about to interview. So, without much further ado, let me introduce to you again Jaki Yaki. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Thank you.
So, let me ask you: you reached a very high status by
I have.
yes, by any standard.
Really?
The MD of a company. Most people dream of getting there but don't.
Okay.
So maybe for people listening and aspiring to reach some of the or achieve some of the things that you've done, what do you say was the beginning, the entry point? How did it all start?
That's a very good question. How did it start? I think it started from. I'm naturally a curious person.
Mhm.
So I think my curiosity has helped me to kind of chart my path, right? I'm curious about a lot of things. Of course, clearly now design is one of them.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious, and that helps me to ask the questions, relevant questions, get feedback, um, think about the problem and how a solution can come about that will be meaningful to the people who need it. So I would say my curiosity has driven me to the point where I am now. So yes, it would be my curiosity.
Okay.
And my I'm trying to find the right word. And my hunger to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think it's my curiosity. Yeah. So I'll say yeah, my curiosity.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what were some of the things that you did as a young at your younger age that led you and I'm not saying you're old.
I was just going to answer you because I'm still 16.
Yes, you look sweet. You look sweet. So because I asked this question because most people go into school without really knowing what they want to do, but maybe their parents said they should study this. Very few people really are sure at that time of their lives as to what they really want to achieve. So what were some of the things that helped you know that this is what I want to focus on or major in for the better part of my life?
Okay. So I think it was two things. One, I love to just create things. The thought of having something not exist at first and then you build it.
Mhm.
So maybe that's innate because I'm a woman,
Yeah.
know. I don't know how men feel, but we tend to want to just create. So you can liken that to birthing children and things like that. So for me, it's just birthing ideas. And I think that that's innate with most people.
Yeah.
And maybe stronger with women. So that's the first one. And the second one is my. Ooh, I'm not going to say it's OCD.
But it could be.
I don't think so. I think it's just a gift, and it's something that I had from when I was much younger.
Mhm.
Again, I talked about my being very curious.
Yeah.
And it started from when I was really young. Um, and I just found myself wanting to, like Lego. You know how you play around with Lego?
Yeah.
But I used to do that a lot with spaces.
Okay.
Right? Like I could wake up one morning and I'm like, we can move the sofa to this end and move because the last time.
I remember when I was pregnant. When I was pregnant with my first child, my only daughter.
Yeah.
I remember I was so tired. I couldn't clean. I couldn't take care of the house. And you came one day and you were like moving things around. I was like,
I can't help myself. It's my work. Like I go there, I'm like, it's not working. Let's move it because if you leave this here, people can trip and fall. So yeah, so so those are the things that that made me know that I had to go in this direction. So yeah.
And do you think that your endeavor is mostly dominated by men, or it's equal? And if it is dominated by men, how have you separated yourself or distinguished yourself to this point?
Okay, so let's take it from the very top. First and foremost, what I do is with the firm that I run is interior architecture. But I like to call myself a designer for many reasons. One, because I'm trying to redefine what an interior designer should be.
Yeah. What's the misconception?
Well, the misconception one is that we're mostly decorators. They don't see us as professionals. They think that we went to the back of some cereal box to to learn how to do what we do. But the truth about the matter is, in our industry, there are tiers of let's call them service providers.
Yeah.
So you have the ones that are accredited, the ones who have gone to school to learn it, for example, who've studied interior architecture. So in fact, most of my team, the members of my team, are architects who then kind of moved over to do interior design. So they took it. They took maybe they took like a master's in interior architecture. Some of them took second degrees to do interior design. So yes, so there's that. So for me, I like to just call myself, like a designer, and trying to push that narrative as to what a professional interior designer should do. But I'm using the word designer because of the sort of turf that we operate on. So for me, it's not just about designing spaces; it's also about designing products that go into that space.
Yeah.
So you find recently we completed the design and innovation exhibition. Because I don't know if I mentioned, I also serve on the board of the Design Week in Lagos. And so we had the design and innovation exhibition. And to encourage my peers, I actually also usually it would be like the younger generation, and things like that, like the Gen Zers, young millennials. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to put something out. And why did I do that? I did that because just like how we used to, back in the days when we had to make clothes, before we started buying from shops, we had tailors. That was hot couture. Like we had these big albums, the Korean magazines and things like that. And then from there, we'll say, okay, I want to make this. And they will actually cut patterns and things like that. So we're already doing hot couture a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right? But now we've kind of fine-tuned it and we've elevated it, and everybody now has like a store. And so now it's more like mainstream. So what we're already doing in our industries, we're already designing like unique pieces. Most people come and say, oh yeah, I saw something like this on Pinterest, but if I've layered 7 other things on it, then it's a new product.
Yeah.
But I need to be able to position it as a new product. I need to be able to call out what's problem is solving. I need to be able to feel a need. So if it's solving a problem for my clients, then it's a new product. And I haven't like copied hook, line, and sinker what I saw on the internet. So that's part of what I'm trying to do. I don't know if that's answered your question. I feel like I've veered off a little bit.
You veered off a bit, but it gives me an insight into how you lead and how you've propelled yourself this far. But I also wanted to understand if your sector is male dominated.
Right. Yes, that was the question. That's the one. Exactly. And the reason why I went this route was because I wanted to just give you an idea of what it is that is happening in our industry. Now, I tend to tell people that I operate in the AEC industry, that's the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. And what that means is that our profession plays in that field because we need spaces to design. Yeah. Even the decorators need spaces to decorate. And those spaces are designed within the architectural industry.
Can I interrupt you to say, for our listeners, in case you don't know, She's the one that designed the lovely studio.
Wow, wow.
Just for their
Really
information.
now?
Yes, I had to put that in there. Go on.
You know, so we're already operating there. So really, you have to recognize the. I feel like you have to recognize the value that the designers are supposed to be bringing on board. But currently, we don't have. I'll say that the profession has not been. What's the word now? So we don't have them in schools, for example.
Okay.
So you can't go and get a degree. But fortunately for us, OAU, a school that I'm also working closely with.
What's the form of only?
OAU is Obafemi Awolowo
Okay,
University.
sure
It's the same.
Because you said something just now. You
No,
said,
no, no. So yeah,
something
they have a master's program now.
Okay.
And the master's program, I said to you that most of my team members are architects, and then they went to do masters in interior design, or they have just come into the system and have just grown organically.
Okay.
Right. So what is happening now is that slowly schools are beginning to take that up, because 5-10 years ago we didn't have that. People just came and said, "Oh, I'm an interior designer," and then they start, and then it became like an all-commerce market. So when you take that back into our AEC industry, it's almost like a disrespect. And you're thinking, "Hello, where did you come from? Sorry, who are you again?
Mhm.
What exams did you write?" Whilst this is not the same in other countries, is peculiar in us because it's relatively new.
Yeah.
But that is changing. Now for our industry, because it's interior design, it's mostly women.
Okay.
Right? But for my first degree, which was building technology, it's male dominated. So the industry, the AEC industry itself is male dominated. And to answer your question, yes, it is male dominated. How have I navigated? Well, by just trying my best to do good work, to do work that is meaningful to the people who need it, and to make sure that I am projecting myself in a particular way that helps the larger industry to understand the value that I have to bring to the table. So that's how I've kind of worked around that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking of part of what you said now, and I'm wondering, like, because your field is, I think, more practical than theoretical.
It's not really though.
Really, because I would think that, well, if I was hiring someone, for instance,
Yes.
it wouldn't matter to me their certificate. What would matter is show me what you've done. So I wonder now that because I'm not in the industry, so I don't know. What matters is it the certificate? Because what I'm listening to what you said before that.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
you can schools like Obafemi Awolowo
Yeah.
are now offering things
Yeah.
that make it standardized or give you something that shows your abilities through a certificate.
Yes.
But in your industry, in the trends, what is more important? What do people look out for before they hire? Is it the certificate, or you need to have some sort of portfolio of the things that you've done previously?
Well, for me, and this is, I believe that this is personal. Okay, maybe it's not personal because of the way I even got into James Cubitt in the first place.
Okay.
James Cubitt's architects was what most people knew. They didn't have an interiors interiors company at the time, but they did have some one-off. So one person who was doing some interiors for them, but they had not set up like an interiors arm. So when I joined them as a building technologist, even though I was studying interior design, right? Now, what that did for me was that it helped me to lay out what I already knew in about buildings, because I kind of, so imagine a building technologist or building construction person is almost like your civil engineer, almost, but we're not too structural, right? We don't go too structural. Ours is the business of putting a building together. And so I already had that. So I understood how to piece a building together. I understood the frameworks, how to set things up. I understood plans. I understood a lot of the terminologies. And then I layered that with interior design. So what had happened was and it's such an interesting, I feel like I keep telling the story. How did I get there? My friend was working there. I saw her working one day and I was like, "Can I help you?" And she was like, "Yeah, of course you can." And then we did. And then my now chairman, who was my MD at James Cubitt Architects, said to me, "You know what? I like the way you work. Would you like to join our team?" and I won't lie to you. First of all, I ran.
Why?
But because I didn't, because I at that time, I guess I was not as smart as I am now. I didn't see myself fitting into the firm because they were all architects.
Okay.
They had never employed a building technologist
Okay.
before, anybody outside of the architecture.
Why was there a need for that? I digress.
What was the need for what?
The building technologies. I think if they
Okay,
just all
so
of a sudden felt like
exactly, because it was what it was the value that they saw that I had to bring, and I narrowed that down, and that's been my my mo,
okay,
right, for getting people on board.
Mhm.
Is I think that he just looked at my attitude towards work, and he looked at just my value systems, and he was like, you know what, this one is teachable. She will learn fast. She thinks outside of the box, and she's ready to do the work. You know, let's try her out. And he took that chance, and then he did. And then when I joined them, of course, I had to work a little bit more harder than everybody else. So I used to put in the weekend, put in some night work, so I could catch up. And I was asking a lot of questions. And you must have found it really annoying, but it helped. It helped everybody.
Yeah.
And then down the line, again, because I'm always curious, I'm always asking questions. I said to them, you know, what's going on with interior design? How is it that we're designing buildings that are like, I'm not going to say cookie cutter because we pay attention to a lot of details. So our buildings are not the same. But I said to them that we're also designing for people. So we must design for the things that will work for them. Because when they take up the space, what happens then? So I saw a need there, and we filled that gap by setting up the interior design firm. So when I'm employing people, when I'm getting people to get on my team, it's important for them to have the basic knowledge of how a building comes together. So they could be civil engineers or like care. They could be building technologies, they could be architects. But they also have this, there's that first one. And the second thing is um they have to want to learn about interior design. They have to have some sort of knowledge, basic knowledge also about interior design. And then the third part is they have to have um, a certain set of value system that aligns with what it is we stand for as a business. You know, so that whole assertiveness, the can-do spirit, just wanting to push for excellence, that those sort of things. And so when we interview them, we know how to fish those sort of things out, and so that helps.
Okay, and how do you infuse that culture? Because they say culture, infusing culture in an organization is something totally different. I mean, it has to be deliberately done. So, what do you do, or how do you allow it to trickle down that curiosity,
Yeah.
wanting to learn,
Yeah.
hard work, ethics, all those things
Yeah.
are important
Yeah.
for making a company grow.
You know, there's this adage that I use. I always say that, and it's that when the head is not in order, the rest of the body can't work. You know, so it has to come from the top down. It has to come from leadership down.
Yeah.
So if we are saying that we're trying to project a certain set of, we're trying to project a personality, we have to be the personality. So it needs to start from us. People have to see us. Our team have to see us doing that. And then we have to be very intentional about it. We have been. I must confess to you, it's not been easy.
Yeah.
Especially because in our community where I'm sorry I'm going to say this, we are very okay. First of all, we're reactive, and I don't blame us for being reactive. You know why? Because I feel like we're constantly in the survival state of mind of mode because of all the things that are happening around us. And we're empathetic enough to know that. So what we try to do is we ensure that, you know, we're consistently reminding people, because sometimes we become a habit and then something happens and they're, you know,
Yeah.
going back. You have to be intentional about it. You have to keep hammering on it. And then after a while, you know, it kind of becomes like they're on auto drive. And if you see another one veering off, you immediately just catch it, you know. So that's what we tend to do. So we do a lot of, like, I have one-on-ones, and they're random, for example, with not even the leadership, with all the other members of the team. Ask them about what they're doing, ask them why they made certain choices, and to just make sure that they are thinking along the lines that we want them to um as a brand.
Okay. You serve as a director of partnership at both Green Building Council and Design Week. And I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but I think I read it somewhere that you pioneered these two endeavors. Just correct me if I'm wrong.
Pioneered.
Or were part of the
Wow.
pioneering.
Well,
directors.
part of, no, for Green Building Council, not part of the pioneering
Okay.
teams or members. What we did was we revived it.
Okay.
It had gone quiet for many years. So, but when we got on board, and I was put in leadership with some other amazing people, we, kind of brought it back to the fore, and it's been amazing. Since then, we've got a lot of recognition. We have received some sort of grant that the entire continent is asking, how in heaven's name did you do it? We've been here, and you just came after 3 years like a phoenix.
On this podcast, how you did it. That's why I brought it up.
No, I'm not going to tell you.
Come on. Come on.
No, but it's the same thing we talked about earlier on. It's just intentionality. I think once if you're working with the right team, and that's why it's important to choose the right team to work with. If you're working with the right team and you are clear what your objectives are, and you have their buy-in, and everybody's playing their part, it makes it easy for you to be able to achieve those things that you have set out. That's really it. Because if you don't have, let's say you have 4 people working on a team and 2 of them are not buying, it's like driving with 2 tires. I mean, where are you gonna go? You're not gonna go anywhere. So that's how we did it in a nutshell. That's how we did it. For Design Week Lagos, yes, I'm part of the pioneering team, but the founder is of course Titi Ogufere, an amazing founder on many fronts. She's also the founder for Interior Design Association of Nigeria. So I am part of the pioneering team, and yes, so that was your question, no?
Well, I was getting there actually, and you refused to tell us the secret. But
I told you the secret. That's it.
So just hard work.
Well, intentional work. So and my very good friend taught me this. For any partnership, any relationship you get into, it's very important for you to align very early on your expectations of each other, right? So when you come together to say, okay, this is a vision, you have to define it so that people can buy into it and they're living it. Then you then say to them, okay, this is what I'm trying to achieve. Even the Bible says it. Let me go biblical on you. It says right.
Division, make it thing.
Exactly. So that
you who will run with this.
There you go. It's really you're good. So it's really that simple, really. Yeah, those principles. It's really that straightforward. Okay. It doesn't mean that you will not have your when teams are forming now, you will have all that storming and fighting and breaking of heads, and then that will happen. That's normal. But setting this at the start, it helps. And then you have your check-ins, of course. So always say, okay, listen, this was our vision. It looks like I'm veering off. What's going on? And then we can recalibrate.
There are 2 things that I want to ask you. I want to make sure I don't forget. One is on sustainability, and one is on how these partnerships and these associations that you're also associated with affect your role as the managing director of James Cubitt.
Okay.
So number 1, does it make you more intentional about being sustainable in your designs? Because you are part of the
Green Building
Council.
Oh, for sure.
Okay,
for sure.
And how does that work? How do you? There's so much talk about sustainability. I'm so.
Are you sure you want to go there?
No, that would be a totally different podcast.
Okay, but maybe just to simplify it, and I always use our rating tools, all the ones that you have in the market. You have Lead, you have Well, you have Edge. I always use Edge because people are always like, is that really a rating tool? It is. What Edge has done is it started at the very basic level. So what it's doing is, what it has done, especially for Africa, is to say, okay, where are the problem areas that exist.
Okay.
So they focus, that rating tool focuses majorly on reducing one, embodied carbon. That's a long story, but let's just keep it to the simple things. Energy consumption, reducing that. Water consumption, reducing that, and then of course all the other things. But those two things are the very basic ones that they hammer on. And then, so when you take that back to how we have infused it, we kind of follow the same principle. The truth is, we can go with the lead ratings requirements and go gangster with it.
Yeah.
But the question is the market ready for it
Mhm.
yet? It's good to educate them because they will get
there.
they'll get there eventually. But it should just start with the basic things. So for example, I talked about water saving. So we make sure that our faucets are sensor faucets, so you don't have the tap that you leave on and water is just running off. I imagine that the James Cubitt Architects team, when they're designing buildings, they design for rainwater collection so that they can reuse the water to maybe water the plants or wet the plants and things like that. And when it comes to lights and energy saving, we are specifying sensor motions in certain areas. We're specifying low emission fittings so that it's not taking up too much electricity. And you remember those are 60-watt bulbs, the yellow ones. Do you still have them in your house? I hope not.
But let me digress.
I hope not.
About something I witnessed.
Tell me.
I traveled to South Africa recently.
Yeah.
I don't live it. We stayed in Radisson,
Yeah.
in South Africa, and there was something strange I found out. Well, it was strange to me, but not strange to them because they don't water. They don't have water in South Africa as in a natural resource. So on the toilet in the hotel, for flushing, there are two
Yes.
there are two knobs.
You didn't know?
They put a masking tape on one of them and said we're trying to conserve water.
So you use the smaller one.
So use the smaller one.
Yeah.
I found that so interesting. Then there are taps. The showers and even the normal taps, water doesn't just gush out. They they use these ones that have holes inside so that the water is measured, so that you use less.
You use less.
You use less. And I found that so fascinating. I was like, these people are really trying to conserve their
No, but those are the things that we have to look at. You have to look at things like that. In fact, it's funny you should mention. And in the same vein, I always laugh at, and I'm digressing a little bit, but I find it funny, not that I laugh. When those shower heads, like that bring plenty of water. All right, and as the thing is coming down with so much force and so much volume of water, that's your water going, by the way. So if you're paying for water, your water wet it, right? But then you now find that they have one little what do you call those things in the floor? Gosh, I'm really filming now. The drainage, yes. And just one small square one to take away all that volume of water. And then they find that their bathrooms are flooding, and that's just really terrible design.
Yeah.
In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine just last week, and I was saying, when you're designing for things like that, you must treat your shower area has to almost feel like a little tank.
Okay.
Because it needs to collect all that water. Whether you want to be seeing it, that's now a different, because you'll not be swimming in your the water that used to wash your body, or you design in such a way that there is a cover over that area that allows the water to collect. You don't see it, but it's collecting and then it's moving out.
Yeah.
The way you want it to. But to put that small drain there is ludicrous.
Okay.
Right, so back to what it is you're saying. I imagine that the drain that they had there too was just something like cute and nice, which works, and that also helps to control how the water drains out. But so those are the sort of measures that we need to take.
Okay. Okay.
Not now, especially all those people that live in Lekki. Because they have to clean the water. They have to You have to treat your water, you have to clean it out, you need power to do all of that. So you can't afford to just be letting it just gush out. Same thing for your kitchen faucets. Do you really need that much water? Are you washing your plates? Just things as simple as that. And because if that water wasn't there, you have to go and buy. So you have to treat it as though you buy water all the time. So
okay. So the second question I wanted to remember to ask you is, with all the other things that you do apart from being the envy of these people, what do you think of? Because I usually ask these people this question, especially people that are in leadership. I said, can you separate your brand as a person from the brand of the company you work for, and what do you optimize for? Do you focus, because maybe initially when people at the lower level, they don't focus much on their own brand. But once you reach a particular level, do you ask yourself, am I trying to build my own brand personally, and am I separate from the company that I run or I work in? And how should I look at this? So what's your take?
Hmm. Again, it's pretty straightforward. It's simple for me. When you join a firm, right, or you decide to work with a brand, you have become an appendage of that brand. So for your own sake, you better be aligning with who you are as a person, because else you're not really working on building your own self up. So for me, I cannot really separate myself from the brand that I represent. I can't separate my personal brand from that, per se. There'll be other aspects of me that, of course, might not be there, but mostly it will be there when it comes to, let's say, things that have to do with design and stuff. So I can't really separate. So I have to be that brand. So there's that. In building my own personal brand, again, it is us. In building my own personal brand, it's really just working around what it is that you have defined yourself to be. What's your value system again? What's your ethos as a person? Remember when I said to get people on board, we kind of check to see, okay, are we aligned on our belief systems and our value systems? Because that helps. So my answer to that would be, before you tie yourself to a brand, make sure that it aligns with who you are, to a degree. Yeah. Yeah.
I digress to something else. I found that people that design or that are artistic in nature inherently, they tend to be perfectionists.
Mm.
I don't know if that's true for you, but well, my
Is
question.
it perfectionist, or they have an innate attention to detail?
Well, it depends on who's looking. Some people are like, it's okay, we can go on, and then some people are like, no, 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 we have to get it right. So
Yes, they're creators.
yeah, so
Because they've seen this thing and they know how it should be.
I don't fault you.
Why not? I'm not saying that you're faulting us, but let me hear what you have to say.
So, but they say perfection is the enemy of what's it called of accomplishments, as in of doing anything, because if you're so fixated
You'll
on
be
doing
overthinking it, and
you
then
might
you
not get
don't move
anything
to
done
the
eventually.
next.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, how do you balance trying to get the project done and completed on time and as perfectly as possibly accomplished with profitability, as in, because in order for something to be perfect or close to perfect, it might mean spending more, it might mean expending more energy. So how do you balance things, especially if you cannot get a perfect situation?
Okay, so let's start from the word perfection. I think that's where the first challenge is for me.
You don't aim for it.
No. Well, what is perfection? What is perfection?
At least if
For
your client is
me,
happy.
well, exactly. And that brings us back to what I was talking about earlier. It's just alignment and expectations.
Mhm.
So you ask your client, what are you looking to get out of this?
Mhm.
Based on, of course, you have that sort of conversation.
Yeah.
Let's call it research, and trying to get all the information that you need for you to be able to paint a picture of where it is that both of you are going to, right? And then you do that and you ask them, what does success mean to you? How do what do you want to feel after this project? And then you paint this picture, you show it to them, and you say to them, okay, does this work? And they're like, yes, this is amazing. This is fine. This doesn't mean that during the course of that project or endeavor, that, they might come back and say, well, I was thinking that it should be textured, but now I'm thinking maybe it should be plain. But then you guys talk about it again and go back to the center and say, okay, this was what we're trying to achieve. Has it changed? You know. So for me, once you have agreed something with your clients and you have that, because that's very important.
Yeah.
And that comes in for during your planning. And I said to people, to work on any project, even myself, because I have to remind myself a lot of times, it takes 70% planning to just, because it's like the backbone. Because if you don't, you just be reactive and be trying to solve problems that are popping up. But if you have created a clear picture where you're going, these possible situations that can happen, how you should work around it, it makes it easier. I'm not saying it's going to be 100%, but it makes it easier. Now, because you've done that, even yourself, when you're being creative, and I understand where you're going, where you're like, we're the greatest critics of ourselves. I was like, no, that white in that corner, I don't really like it. It's just a
After
stare.
doing action, actually, that's why I can use it.
So what I tend to do now is because so if it's my own thing, forget about it. It will never finish. It will keep changing. It's mine. Do you understand? Especially when it comes to design. But if it's with somebody else, what I then do is I bounce it off them to say, okay, this is what I've done. What do you think? So it's almost like it's more a collaborative effort. And that's important. That's the checking in part of things. You check in to say, okay, how are we looking? The thing that you are beating yourself for might just be like, my goodness, I didn't think we could get here. This is like a 1000% better than what I ever thought it would be.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So that's important for you to do. Then when it comes to conflict resolution and things like that, again, if you are set it from the beginning to say, okay, if we have a problem, we'll talk about it. If there's no headway after 72 hours, we'll do XYZ. If after 3 weeks there's no headway, maybe we'll end this our contract. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So those sort of agreements you have to talk about. And then if you come and say, okay, my client says I want to make a change, there should also be a system to say, okay, when you make a change, this is what's going to happen. There are 5 different people working on this. We need to check how it's going to affect everybody.
Yeah.
See how, so that way we can check whether there be cost implication, whatever resource, cost implication, time implication, and then we'll share that with you. And you need to give us 48 hours. Those sort of things.
Okay.
So it just helps people manage expectations, and it reduces the tension on projects, and also helps you in your profitability. Because if a client comes and says, "Oh, I want to change this," and it's clear from the onset that, "Oh God, you came and did this. If it's going to cost us 6 more hours, then we will have to charge you for it." Do you understand? So those sort of discussions need to be had anyway.
And so, what lessons have you learned along the way that you want to share? Life lessons, career lessons, anything.
Life lessons. Align on expectations early.
Okay.
So you can manage people's expectations. So that's one lesson. And then the other one is to just, I guess if I was looking at myself when I was much younger, I don't think that I've done badly as a choose. But if I had like my 16-year-old self sitting in a chair opposite me and asking, what do you think I should do? I'll say to that 16-year-old girl to just go for it. Just don't overthink it. Just give it a jab. Try it out. Don't be so fearful about trying to take a step.
Yeah.
As long as you're not trying to kill somebody, you're trying to advance yourself. You're trying to do better. You're trying to do better. You're trying to make something better.
Yeah.
So go for it. Just try it. Go for it. Don't be too afraid, because on that other side, by the time you know what they say about fear. Now, once you never know until you've crossed over. You're like, what? Really? To just jump from a plane is really that simple? So yeah. So that's what I would say.
Last question. So, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What's on the other side of the institute?
In general terms, God keeping us together and alive.
Amen.
Amen to that. I still see myself designing at the age of 90.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to stop. When I'm done with corporate life, I would like to. I don't know what to say, teach, but I like to mentor people. I like to do a lot of that. And I think that people who have had the privilege to do many things should also look at doing things like that, so that they can pour into the next people, other people can learn from, especially on our turf.
Yeah.
We don't do a lot of that. So I'd like to do that after the incubate or corporate life is over.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
a guest again. In 5 years' time or less.
5 years.
I'll ask you again.
No problem. I'm here. 100%.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty. Okay.